Welcome to Alaska Weather, a production of Alaska Public Media and the National Weather Service, Alaska Region. Produced and broadcast daily from the studios of KAKM, Alaska Weather provides complete forecasts, public, marine, and aviation for all of Alaska. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
The National Weather Service.
Hello everyone, thanks so much for joining us for this Monday's edition of Alaska Weather. I'm Dave Percy. On yesterday's satellite imagery, we had, as you can see out here, whiter conditions, which is actually clear skies with the clouds, the darker area. It's showing up white because there's quite a cold air mass out there, and it's still out there today. We had this very slow-moving trough here producing the light snow from, well, south central Alaska, north and northwest back toward the central Arctic coast, and that's moving quite slowly. And we had a pretty good break here over the Pribilofs, band of showers that dropped through later on in the evening last night, but nice conditions basically here on across the Alaska Peninsula. Next big storm approaching the far western Aleutians and eastern interior, especially over toward the border, Copper River Basin, down the southeast coast, Gulf of Alaska, looking really good. Well, today, not much change in that pattern at all. Same conditions right up into the eastern Copper River Basin with a few breaks in the clouds. Here's that upper level trough right through here, at least the moisture associated with it, the trough axis still back to the west a little bit there. And that's the dividing line of the southerly flow in advance of the trough, and then the clearing skies in the northerly flow and the really cold temperatures back to the west. Low temperatures this morning were down into the lower minus 40s, 42 below, both at McGrath and Galena, Huslia at 40 below. And this afternoon at 3 o'clock, Selawik was only minus 30. Otherwise, cold air all the way down into Bristol Bay. That's slowly seeping through the Alaska Range there in toward south central Alaska. Temperatures in the teens this afternoon. But conditions here just mostly cloudy along the southwest coast. And then the big storm rolling up, bringing hurricane force winds this afternoon into the southwest Bering Sea in advance of the frontal boundary there, with storm warnings back down, storms and gales over the western Aleutians with gale force winds into the central Aleutians, and winds are on the increase here, especially where they have increased, gusts to 50 to 60 miles an hour for the eastern Aleutians, right on up into the Pribilof Islands with some snow. Hasn't been heavy yet, so there really wasn't much in the way of any blowing snow. And of course, temperatures are rising to near freezing at Unalaska, and not too much colder than that over St. Paul Island. Anyway, as this front pushes northward, it's kind of run into the Arctic air mass over the northern Bering Sea, actually the northwest flow around the cold upper level low over the western interior. So it's kind of getting pushed back to the west there, especially since the main storm center was staying out to the western, actually drift off to the northwest. Otherwise, nice conditions there in the Gulf of Alaska, Kodiak Island. A few clouds here, northeast Gulf, nothing too significant, kind of a weak trough through here, and that's going to actually enhance and bring showers in along the southeast coast here later on. But really, that trough dissipating, but still light snow right down into northern Cook Inlet, even right now. And that extends northward there, as you can see the cloud band right on up to the eastern Arctic coast. Very light snow conditions, but definitely back to the west, a lot clearer, better flying conditions. And if you get far enough to the east, same thing as well. On the chart today, upper level trough, signified by this dashed line here, and with a high pressure at the surface and low pressure aloft, that again is results or signals a very cold air mass that we have in place here from Bristol Bay right up across just about all the western interior. Back out to the west, the cold air that was over the Bering Sea yesterday is now shifted down across Bristol Bay and the Alaska Peninsula. And otherwise, snow showers, a few still lingering here because of the outflow from Kamishak Bay across the southern inlet, and then bringing some snow showers on up into the Homer area. And light snow off and on today, northern Cook Inlet, Anchorage, Palmer, right on northward here, almost to the eastern border, but not quite there yet. And then a break here, clouds, North Gulf Coast. Isolated showers beginning to show up off the coast of the Panhandle. Otherwise, it was a pretty good day across there with some breaks in the overcast. Out west, here comes the front pushing eastward. And again, 40 to 60 mile an hour wind gusts here for the eastern Aleutians on up to the Pribilofs. Staying snow though, at least through the last observation I looked at there for Unalaska, but probably some rain not too far to the south. Warmer back to the west, winds lighter here behind the front for Adak and Atka, and then picking back up again to gale force across the gale, even storm force there out toward the western Aleutians with rain, temperatures in the mid to upper 30s. Up along the Arctic coast, not too bad. I've got the circulation aloft, pulling moisture northwest, coming back down around in just catching the Point Hope, Cape Lisburne areas. Very light snow flurries at most there. Some of that catching maybe the western central coastal areas and then back into the eastern north slope. But again, amounts quite light. The main clear area was here over the interior areas. And for tonight, that high shifts eastward here. Upper level trough is also kicking out and mostly to the north. It's going to be pushed back to the north here as this intrusion of warm air and strong southerly winds begins to advance northward. Pretty good winds tonight, gusts to 50 miles an hour or more there for the Alaska Peninsula ahead of the front. Winds continue here for the Pribilofs. Temperatures may edge up above freezing. Maybe getting some mixed precipitation in there. More likely, though, here later on for the Alaska Peninsula, especially the eastern Aleutians. Back to the west, lighter winds, a few scattered rain and snow showers. Still quite windy, though, back over the western Aleutians, although that low weakening and pulling back to the northwest a little bit there. Eastern interior, again, swath of snow here from possibly the Tanana Valley, southward across the Copper River Basin, catching Valdez, Cordova. Maybe a few snow showers there around Yakutat, but just mostly cloudy here for the southeast coast or areas of. And looks like at this point, all the snow shower activity will stay off the coast. Otherwise, that's going to tend to increase. Back out to the west, there's another storm coming onto the chart here this afternoon at 969 millibars. That's going to roll on in, at least it's going to push the front up into this position here with gales out in advance of the system, maybe storm force winds in a narrow band just ahead of the frontal boundary there, but definitely warmer air, rain all through this area associated with it. Back to the west, center still off to the southwest there or south-southwest of Attu Island. The original center here pulling back toward Kamchatka Peninsula, and along that front, a very weak low. Looks like it'll develop and move on up toward the Pribilof. So you'll have lighter winds tomorrow with a southwesterly direction, and it looks like mixed precipitation there. But farther to the north, may see some blowing snow here along the southwest coast, at least to start with. If enough moisture makes it into there, but generally a big increase in the winds here for the eastern or the northern Bering Sea. Gradually coming up for St. Lawrence Island, but should stay mostly clear there, right up through the Bering Strait, offshore flow, clear skies, cold temperatures across much of the interior, a few more clouds here to the east, and that'll keep temperatures up a little bit, especially the overnight lows. Otherwise, area snow, mostly offshore of the entire Arctic coast there, but it looks like it'll extend down maybe to the east side tomorrow, especially tomorrow morning here, maybe catching the eastern Arctic coast with a few light flurries and cloudy skies. Nothing significant at all, and that's about it. The upper trough now tomorrow off into the east, or again lifting northward here over the northern interior. So quite a bit more sunshine here for south central Alaska all the way back to the west. System here off the southeast coast there, low center just west of Elfin Cove. That's going to bring a increase in the snow shower activity as well as the clouds, obviously. But it looks like most of the precipitation, which will be in the form of snow, will be along the coastal areas there, all the way from Heidelberg back up across Port Alexander, Sitka, in toward Elfin Cove, and maybe Yakutat. Otherwise, temperatures, or forgot one day, Wednesday's forecast, those showers are gone, and kind of a change in the pattern taking place. They're starting to come into full array now as portion of that low center that I mentioned that forms near the Pribilofs comes due east overnight tomorrow night and moves to about this position Wednesday afternoon. And there also will be quite a surge of moisture associated with that in association with an upper level trough to the north, cyclonic flow. So it looks like a pretty good shot of snow is going to come across south central Alaska from the Kuskokwim Valley overnight Tuesday night, late Tuesday night, definitely Wednesday morning. Expect significant snow in the area there, and then that'll be pulling mostly over the Cop River Basin by afternoon. So back to the west here, especially on the lee side of the Alaska Range, skies will clear, precipitation ends on down to the south there, but look for snow to linger throughout the entire afternoon, say from Anchorage, definitely turning an arm up into the Palmer area, Matanuska Valley. Mixed precipitation possible here along the North Gulf Coast. Warmer air mass associated with this system as it comes east. High pressure, partly sunny skies there for the Panhandle. Light winds. Look for the clouds to increase along the coast late in the day. An area of snow up over the central interior here. Back to the southwest, linking up with, again, a big surge of warm air pushing northward with the warm front there. So we've got rain right up into the St. Matthew Island area. And winter storm watches are out for the Yukon Delta coast back to St. Lawrence Island as significant winds increase with snow and blowing snow, possibly reducing visibilities to near zero at times. Fair on the Arctic coast, there all the moisture well to the north and gale force winds in advance of the front with a narrow band of rain edging its way in toward mostly Nikolsky, possibly reaching on Alaska. Lighter winds, better conditions back to the west. Winds increasing, possibly storm force here with that 950 millibar low center that's tracking up to just east of the Komodorsky Islands there. Otherwise, for the southeast coast, we've got 30s today, 35 Yakutat, and mid to upper all the way down toward Dixon Entrance, Kawaka 39. State capital today, 37 degrees, 31 at Cordova. Lower 20s, Prince William Sound with Portage at 22 above. Same thing at Seward, gusty north winds there. 23 Fairbanks, 18 at Nome, 15 Kenai, 18 there at Palmer, 15 at Talkeetna. Below zero, north of the mountains, -5 at Fairbanks, and Tanana, -14. 0 at Fort Yukon, back in the Koyukuk Valley, 15 below at Bettles, as well as Anatuvik. And 10 to 25 below about sums it up here for the Arctic coast and North Slope. Down into the northwest there with Kivalina at 28 below, -11 at Kotzebue, 8 below over at Nome, 0 at Savunga. McGrath up to 18 below this afternoon, but below zero conditions right on out to the coastline, including Macoriac. Aleutians, warmer conditions there, 45 at Atka. Cooling back a little toward Adak, upper 20s for the Pribilofs, single numbers for Bristol Bay. And for the lows tonight, well below zero. Coldest again here back in the west, but should be colder even over the Tanana Valley, 28 below for the Fairbanks area. No change for the Arctic coast, 30s for the Aleutians. And below zero here if it clears out, especially in the clear areas, definitely falling below zero, south central Alaska. Teens, North Gulf Coast, the 20s. Over the Panhandle, 20s and 30s for the highs tomorrow. 10 to 15, south central Alaska, below zero to the north and back to the west, although coming up warmer than today here as that warmer wind and clouds move in. So up to zero tomorrow for Bethel, 32 for the Pribilofs, 30s to near 40 in the Aleutians. IFR here with that front from the Pribilofs down into the Alaska Peninsula tomorrow morning with the first one. Not too bad over the interior, some possible IFR here with that leftover moisture and also on the western Arctic coast. Tomorrow afternoon, persisting there of the IFR along the southwest coast, extending westward, lifting north of the Pribilofs. IFR at the next system rolling in. Good VFR over the interior and the Panhandle, except for the Arctic coast. And Anatuvik, VFR, Adigan, VFR as well. In fact, I believe all the passes are VFR now for tomorrow. Rainy, western Alaska Range, windy, and the eastern range there, Isabella Mentasta, wide open, Tanita open, Portage, same forecast. Chilkoot and White, VFR. Freezing level, not much to show here. Some warmer air out over the western Bering Sea. 2,000 feet nudging up toward the Alaska Peninsula and eastern Aleutians. Otherwise, at the surface, right up to Yakutat and then southeastward. Possible icing developing here for the mixed variety along the coast of the Panhandle tomorrow. Heavier stuff, though, with the first front coming in. Moderate there above 4,000 feet. A break, and then more icing with that next storm rolling in. And then for the upper level wind flow chart, that upper trough lifting northward now to the north slope tomorrow, ridging in advance of that, the big storm and trough out through here. The other one sliding southeastward, and the next one out there near Kamchatka. 9,000 foot wind, southerlies 30 to 40 knots here, up to 55 knots out of the south of the central Aleutians. Light winds over the interior and Panhandle, 3,000 feet, southerlies 40 across the peninsula. Easterlies 40 to 45, but the big winds out west here, 60 knots approaching the far western Aleutians. And turbulence with that, severe possible from Atka westward to mainly Kamchatka. Moderate chop here for the southwest coast, St. Matthew Island down to the peninsula, smooth over the interior and the Panhandle. And after the break, I'll be back with a look at the ice edge and the marine forecasts.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Mary O'Connor with the Alaskan Aviation Safety Foundation and the National Institute for Occupational Safety and Health. Thank you to Alaska Public Media, and thank you for watching Hangar Flying. This evening, we are excited to have David Karalunas back on Hangar Flying to talk about something other than his day job. David, thank you for being here. We're going to talk about your volunteering as an aviation humanitarian worker. And we understand that you've had some interesting experiences, but you've also had a very high point in your volunteering activities. You want to tell us about that?
Sure. Well, you know, I grew up volunteering. My mom started the Blood Bank of Alaska, actually, before I was born, and so I've always volunteered my whole life. But I ended up getting involved with a flying club, Arctic Flying Club in Fairbanks, and ultimately became a board member. And that's how I met my wife. So that was certainly the high point of my aviation volunteering.
And definitely a benefit that you probably didn't count on.
Definitely.
So we're interested in your involvement with AirServe. I worked with them during some disaster relief activities in a prior life and have also been a passenger with them. Who are they and what do they do?
Well, AirServe is a humanitarian aviation organization that specializes in the last mile of aid. So they work with the World Food Program, USAID, delivering, you know, things that governments or others donate to get to that last step to the actual end user. They support under contract Doctors Without Borders. They supported the election that led to the creation of South Sudan. A lot of things around the world, the disasters in Haiti and other places. So a lot of really good work.
What type of aircraft do they fly?
Well, they've flown a great variety of things over the years, but right now they have an all-Caravan, Cessna Caravan fleet operating out of Entebbe in Uganda.
And what did you do with them?
Well, also through Arctic Flying Club, I met Dave Karlstrom, who became the CEO of AirServe International, which is a U.S.-based company, and they owned AirServe Limited, which is the kind of a U.S. air taxi equivalent based at Entebbe. And he'd been after me for years to go over there and help out with their maintenance department and safety management generally, and finally convinced me to spend a month over there where I worked for 40 hours a week for 4 weeks and did a very extensive audit of the company, job shadowed folks, including in operations, and made recommendations on how to improve their operation.
And you've also got a background in maintenance. Did you find that helpful for your work with AirServe?
Actually, my career has been in maintenance, even though I'm a commercial land, sea instrument pilot, I've always worked in the maintenance field or quality control. So yeah, that was my primary focus. But I did get to fly a little bit with them to see an outstation. Went to Democratic Republic of the Congo and you know, certainly helped out a lot with day-to-day stuff throughout the company.
Would you have any advice for somebody who's looking for that kind of excitement, whether they're a pilot or involved in airport management or a mechanic?
I would. I mean, you know, growing up as a volunteer, it's one of the most fulfilling and rewarding things that you can do, no matter what the field. Aviation has a lot of volunteering opportunities, and if you're passionate about aviation, it just brings those two wonderful experiences together into one. So I'd highly recommend looking at operations like AirServe. There are several religious affiliated aviation organizations. There's Angel Flight and others that transport patients, or there's pet rescue versions of that. There's just a lot of opportunities out there, and even flying clubs, starting or participating in your local flying club or your EAA chapter or Aviation Support Network with AOPA, lots of chances to volunteer.
So that would be both internationally as well as nationally?
Certainly, and obviously close to home is easier, but you know, some of the international locations really have a lot of unmet need, and it's very fulfilling to help support that.
Had you traveled internationally before you volunteered with this organization?
I have. I'd been to about 15 countries beforehand, but never to Africa, and it was a phenomenal experience, and we can't wait to go back. In fact, you know, as a retirement job, I could definitely see going back over there, which a lot of folks do. There were several retirees, military and civilian retirees over there, continuing to do the same kind of work, but for humanitarian purposes, and really was an energizing environment to be a part of.
That sounds like a great way to give back when you have the time, and also use a lot of the skills that you've developed during your career. So.
It certainly is, Mary.
Thank you so much for being here with us, David. We've taken up a lot of your time, and we really appreciate your interesting side gig, and we wish you lots of luck with that after retirement.
You're welcome. It was my pleasure.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching Hangar Flying. We hope that you've been inspired and educated. Until next time, fly safely.
Welcome back. Well, the ice edge, this is about as advanced as it'll get. And with the southerly winds coming in, it is forecast to push back northeast of St. Matthew Island by Saturday, and also advancing 30 to 40 nautical miles elsewhere on down to the south. Otherwise, marine forecast, north 15 for Lynn Canal, and light breezes all the way down toward Dixon Entrance. Northwest 20 along the coast, turn westerly on the north coast with 7 to 8 foot seas. Wednesday, we've got southeast for the far north coast there. Otherwise, lighter westerlies turn northwest at 15 all the way down, and light winds over the inside waters. Lynn Canal, though, picking up to about 20 knots. Prince William Sound tomorrow, light winds out of the northwest 15 for the North Gulf Coast. Westerlies here into the Barren Islands, turning south for St. Paul. Easterlies, Shelikof Strait, 15 knots, right on up into Kamishak Bay, and barely a breeze in Cook Inlet. That'll pick up to about 15 on Wednesday, northeast 15 also for Prince William Sound. Small craft advisories with that low just to the south that's going to be tracking eastward throughout the day for the North Gulf Coast, turning westerly. Behind it, small craft advisories here, northwest 30 for the Barren Islands and east side of Kodiak Island, back up into Kamishak Bay. Lighter winds for Shelikof Strait. And for Bristol Bay, gales out tomorrow all the way down across the Alaska Peninsula, 35 knot winds, 30 knots from the southeast from Castle Cape to Sitkinak. And then those winds drop back to 20 knots on Wednesday there for Bristol Bay, hanging on to the gales here for especially the north side of the peninsula. And small craft advisories, southwest 25 to 30 on the Pacific side. Eastern Aleutians tomorrow, southwest, especially for an Alaska Island, 20 to 25 knots, turning southerly here, and then up to gales for the Central Aleutians, with gales all the way back to Shemya. And for Bristol Bay Wednesday, let me see, okay, west coast, southwest 25 for the For the Aleutians, the forecast for let's see, the next Wednesday, western Aleutians, there's a storm warning out, otherwise gales. And for Pribilofs for tomorrow, southwest 25, gales south of Nunivak Island, small or brisk wind advisories to the north, gales St. Matthew Island. And then it looks like storm force easterlies for that area on Wednesday, southeast 40 to Pribilofs, dropping back to 30 knots along the coast, coming up to gales for St. Lawrence Island. Arctic coast, light winds for the next couple of days, westerlies here from the central coast eastward, maybe up to 15. Otherwise, pretty light out of the north to the west. And then on Wednesday, really light winds continue. You could just call it light and variable, 5 to 10 knots, but it looks like there will be a discernible direction out of the northwest here, turning westerly on the eastern coastline. And for tonight, clear, cold, St. Lawrence Island, a few clouds around the Seward Peninsula, but basically dry over much of the interior. Lingering band of moisture there pushing eastward gradually and north. Upper level system pulling some light snow up to the Arctic coast. Showers beginning to increase along the Panhandle, and gale force winds, warmer temperatures, rain coming in. May not start that way, but eventually turning to rain for the Alaska Peninsula. Showers back to the west. Tomorrow, clear and cold over the interior and dry right up to the Arctic coast. Increasing showers along the Panhandle. Gale force winds coming into Bristol Bay. Another big storm out there in the western Aleutian areas, pushing into the southwest Bering Sea. And storm warnings out west on Wednesday. Gales with a front. Winter storm watches out for the southwest coast. To St. Lawrence Island, wind and snow increasing throughout the day there. And snow pushing across south central Alaska late Tuesday night. Moves into the Copper River Basin during the afternoon. Snow in the interior, but fair across the southeast coast.
These forecasts are to be used for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
The National Weather Service.